We've announced we're investing $1 billion in our U.S. manufacturing plants for our HELM engine platforms, which stands for high efficiency, low emission, multi-fuel. So that will be high efficiency diesel, meaningfully reducing CO2 emissions and fuel consumption for our customers.
The auto industry wasn't ready for this. While headlines stayed locked on EVs and battery tech, Cummins was working in silence until now. Behind closed doors, their CEO unveiled a new engine that's already being called a game changer. No flashy press release, no warning, just a quiet reveal that could send shockwaves through the entire auto industry.
We're focused on providing power solutions to our customers, recognizing that there's a variety of different solutions that we're going to need, while also realizing what different, unique customer needs we have.
Insiders say it challenges everything from fuel systems to the future of emissions. So, why is this engine making legacy manufacturers nervous? And what did Cummins build that no one else saw coming? One thing's certain: the rules of the road are about to change. The silent giant of power. In a world obsessed with electric cars, battery breakthroughs, and flashy tech demos, one company has remained unusually quiet. And that silence is starting to make people nervous. Cummins, the name stamped on engines powering everything from long-haul trucks to construction giants, isn't in the spotlight. You won't see viral ads for their hydrogen prototypes or keynote presentations with dramatic stage lighting. But behind closed doors, something's shifting. While the auto industry has been scrambling to rebrand itself as battery first, Cummins has been operating on a different wavelength. This is a company built on grit, torque, and reliability. Values that don't trend on social media, but keep the real world running. Their engines haul freight across continents, power generators that keep hospitals alive during blackouts, and run through harsh environments where flashy electric vehicles wouldn't last a day. If you want something to work, and to work for decades, you call Cummins. And yet, the industry is changing fast. Battery electric vehicles are no longer just a Tesla thing. They're the core of every major automaker's roadmap. Countries are legislating combustion engines into extinction. Startups are betting billions on solid-state breakthroughs. And to the average consumer, it feels like EVs have already won. But what if that assumption is premature? What if the future isn't electric in the way we think? That's the quiet question floating around engineers' circles lately. Because while Elon Musk fires off tweets about autonomy and range, Cummins engineers have been making very deliberate moves, ones that don't chase headlines, but reshape the foundation of what powers the world. They've invested in electrolyzers for clean hydrogen, developed hybrid systems that can outmatch diesel in fuel economy, and rolled out engines that can adapt to multiple fuel types without major overhauls. To the public, it looks like a company hedging its bets, but internally, it's starting to look like a trap being set for the rest of the industry. And here's what makes it even more intriguing. Cummins isn't trying to play catch-up. They're not releasing flashy concept cars or promising full autonomy by 2030. What they're doing is quietly building something more resilient, more flexible, and possibly more disruptive. While EV makers argue over charging networks and battery degradation, Cummins is asking a different question. What if the answer doesn't involve batteries at all? Their CEO, Jennifer Rumsey, hasn't been giving dramatic speeches about revolutionizing mobility, but in interviews and investor calls, there are clues. She's talked about the need for realistic zero-carbon solutions and emphasized the importance of building engines that customers can use without having to change everything around them. That's not just a business strategy, it's a philosophy, one that says, You don't need to destroy the old world to build a new one. You just need better tools, and those tools might already be here, hidden in plain sight. Because while the rest of the industry runs toward the same finish line, Cummins has quietly taken a different route, one that doesn't follow trends, but confronts reality head-on. It's not loud, it's not glamorous, but it's real. And if the whispers are true, then what's coming next might not just surprise the industry, it might force it to pivot completely. All we know is this: something is being prepared behind closed doors. And soon, Cummins won't be so silent anymore. The war over what comes next. The auto industry isn't just evolving, it's fighting, internally, politically, and technologically. It's a war over what powers our future, and the battlefield is growing more chaotic by the day. One side is all in on electric. Governments are mandating it. Corporations are branding themselves around it. Influencers and CEOs call it inevitable. But the cracks are starting to show. Range anxiety was supposed to disappear. It hasn't. Charging networks were supposed to be everywhere by now. They're not. Battery production was supposed to scale smoothly. Instead, it's bottlenecked by rare earth shortages and geopolitical supply chain nightmares. And quietly, people are starting to wonder, have we rushed into something we can't fully deliver? EVs made sense on paper, cleaner, quieter, and free from oil. But as the dust settles, what's left is a logistical mess. Cities can't build charging stations fast enough. Rural areas don't even try. Power grids are buckling under summer heat and winter storms. And don't forget the mining. The environmental cost of extracting lithium and cobalt is raising uncomfortable questions about the green label so confidently slapped on electric vehicles. Meanwhile, internal combustion isn't going away quietly. It's evolving. Companies like Toyota, Mazda, and Stellantis are quietly investing in synthetic fuels, hydrogen combustion, and ultra-efficient hybrids. They're not denying the need for cleaner energy. They're just betting that electricity isn't the only path to get there. And in that growing space of doubt, Cummins sees opportunity. They're not following the same roadmap because they never had to. While car companies reinvent themselves as software platforms, Cummins has stayed focused on one thing: engines that work. No app store, no touchscreen updates, just raw mechanical reliability. And now, as the world rethinks how realistic a fully electric transition is, Cummins is positioned in a very unique way. They're not too late. They might actually be early. That's because Cummins isn't asking, how do we beat Tesla? They're asking, how do we give the world something that works today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now? That difference matters, especially when entire industries, trucking, agriculture, shipping, mining, still run on diesel and don't have the luxury of experimental tech. For them, downtime isn't a lifestyle inconvenience. It's millions lost per hour, and then there's cost. Electric vehicles still come with a price premium. Tax incentives may cushion the blow for now, but those won't last forever. And when the numbers get tight, fleet managers and logistics companies don't care about sleek dashboards. They care about cost per mile, repair times, and how fast they can get back on the road. That's why Cummins is so interesting in this moment. While everyone else is busy pitching a utopian electric future, they're quietly building something that solves the problems EVs still can't touch. They're not just watching the EV race, they're walking the perimeter, looking for vulnerabilities. And the deeper this electric-first gamble runs into resistance, the more room there is for someone with a completely different answer. What happens next isn't about choosing sides. It's about what works. And the truth is, The world is still up for grabs. One power outage, one battery recall, one regulatory shift, and the entire narrative could flip. And if it does, don't be surprised if Cummins is already standing at the finish line, ready, waiting, holding something no one saw coming. The Helm strategy: fueling flexibility. If you want to understand how Cummins plans to upend the auto industry, you need to understand one word: Helm. Not a product, not a marketing gimmick. It's a platform. And it's quietly becoming the company's most strategic weapon. Helm stands for high efficiency, low emissions, multiple fuels. Sounds simple, but what it represents is anything but. While other companies are locking themselves into one future, battery electric, hydrogen fuel cell, or synthetic fuels, Cummins is building engines that don't care which direction the world goes: diesel, natural gas, hydrogen, or something in between. Helm engines are designed to adapt. And that's a major shift. For decades, engines were built around a single fuel. Diesel engines ran on diesel. Gasoline engines ran on gas. Every decision, from fuel injection timing to combustion chamber geometry, was optimized for one thing. The Helm architecture flips that idea. Instead of committing to a single path, Cummins built an engine core that can be customized for multiple fuels without reinventing the engine each time. This isn't some hypothetical concept. It's already in motion. The B6.7 and X15 engine lines now exist in diesel, natural gas, and hydrogen-compatible forms, all using a common core structure. That means a truck fleet using diesel today could, down the road, replace its engines with hydrogen variants without redesigning the entire vehicle. Infrastructure doesn't need to start from scratch. Mechanics don't need to relearn everything. It's familiar, scalable, and more importantly, real. And that's the genius of it. While other companies are betting billions on infrastructure that doesn't exist yet, Cummins is threading the needle between present-day feasibility and future innovation. They're not asking governments to build charging networks. They're not waiting on rare materials to become affordable. They're simply building what works now and what can evolve later. Jennifer Rumsey has called this approach practical innovation. That may sound modest, but in an industry flooded with hype, practicality is disruptive. Instead of making promises for 2035, Cummins is delivering engines that can meet today's emission regulations and tomorrow's carbon goals without betting the farm on a single fuel. And they're not doing this in isolation. Major commercial truck manufacturers are already lining up behind Helm-powered solutions. Why? Because these engines fit into existing operations. They keep businesses moving. And when regulations tighten, operators don't need to replace entire fleets. They can simply switch fuels. That's not just convenience. It's a survival strategy. Even beyond commercial use, the implications are massive. Municipal buses, construction vehicles, delivery vans. These sectors can't afford downtime. They need rugged, tested systems that work in extreme conditions. EVs might make sense for small urban cars, but for a snowplow in Minnesota or a tractor in rural India, that's a different story. Helm offers an escape hatch for industries that feel boxed in by electrification deadlines. Still, the most telling part isn't what Cummins is making. It's what they're not saying. They're not trash-talking EVs. They're not mocking government policy. They're simply building a parallel path, one with fewer roadblocks and more flexibility. And they're letting the results speak for themselves. But even with Helm engines already in production, there's a growing sense that something else is brewing. Cummins has made it clear that fuel flexibility is just the beginning. What if they're already working on an entirely new class of engine? One that doesn't just adapt to the future, but changes the course of it. The helm strategy may be the tip of the spear. The real shock may still be hidden. For now, they're just letting the rest of the world keep watching the EV race while they quietly prepare to rewrite the rulebook. Hydrogen, but not how you expect. When most people hear the word hydrogen, they think of fuel cells, those sleek, quiet systems that emit nothing but water vapor and promise a futuristic, battery-free alternative to EVs. But Cummins isn't chasing that version of the future. They're doing something different, something that feels almost rebellious in today's auto landscape. Instead of discarding everything about the combustion engine, they're reinventing it to run on hydrogen. It's called H2ICE, Hydrogen Internal Combustion Engine, and it's not theoretical. Cummins has already built them, tested them, and even deployed them in real-world environments. The first wave includes a 6.7-litre engine for medium-duty trucks and buses and a 15-litre beast designed for heavy-duty freight haulers. These aren't whisper-quiet, software-heavy prototypes. They're loud, rugged mechanical machines that run on one of the cleanest fuels available, and they emit zero carbon. Here's what makes that so disruptive. Hydrogen combustion engines use much of the same infrastructure, components, and servicing techniques as traditional diesel engines. No massive overhaul, no retraining entire workforces, no waiting for new charging networks. It's everything that made the internal combustion engine reliable for a century, just with a new, cleaner fuel. Cummins took this seriously enough to lead Project Brunel in the UK, a full-scale demonstration project focused on proving that hydrogen ICE vehicles could meet ultra-low emissions targets and survive the wear and tear of actual roads. And it worked. The engine passed durability testing. It slashed tailpipe carbon emissions by over 99%. It met Euro 7 standards for NOx emissions. It didn't just work, it thrived. And what's most striking, Cummins isn't alone. Major automakers like Toyota and JCB are also experimenting with hydrogen combustion. But where others dabble, Cummins is scaling. They've already committed to producing these engines at volume. They've invested in Europe's largest electrolyzer manufacturing facility in Spain, building the fuel supply alongside the hardware. It's not a pitch deck, it's a pipeline. Still, this isn't just about alternative fuels. It's about rethinking what the industry threw away. For years, the internal combustion engine has been treated like a relic, doomed to disappear under a tidal wave of electric motors and lithium-ion cells. But Cummins is asking, why throw away something that works just because we didn't try everything? This idea of using hydrogen to save the combustion engine sounds almost heretical to some. It doesn't align with the sleek, silent EV narrative. It's noisy. It smells like grease. It makes real engine sounds. And yet, it could solve problems that EVs still haven't cracked. Fast refueling, long range under heavy load, and cold weather reliability. Try hauling 40,000 pounds through sub-zero temperatures in a battery-powered semi. Hydrogen combustion doesn't flinch. And if that wasn't enough, there's the timeline. Battery electric vehicles are still years away from being viable in most heavy-duty sectors. Hydrogen fuel cell tech, while promising, remains expensive and infrastructure-starved. But Cummins' hydrogen ICE, it's already on the road. It's already in production. No waiting required. This shift doesn't mean Cummins is turning its back on progress. Quite the opposite. It means they're defining progress differently. Less about scrapping the past and more about evolving it. And it's catching on. Still, for all the announcements and early deployments, there's a strange quiet around what else Cummins might be working on. Executives stay vague in interviews, engineers dodge specifics, and industry insiders hint that what we've seen so far, the 6.7-litre and 15-litre engines, might only be the beginning. Because what if hydrogen isn't just powering retrofitted engines? What if Cummins has something new, something built from the ground up, for this fuel, for this moment? So far, they've given us a glimpse of what's possible, but the real reveal, that's still sealed. And the longer they wait to show it, the more it feels like it's going to change everything. The market shifts, and Cummins takes aim. The EV gold rush is starting to wobble. For the past decade, electric vehicles were seen as the ultimate answer, a clean, quiet, inevitable replacement for everything with a tailpipe. But now, the tone is changing. EV sales are slowing. Charging infrastructure is falling behind promises. Battery costs remain stubborn. And in the background of that growing uncertainty, Cummins is stepping forward with a different message. You don't have to force the future. You can build a better one. It's a bold move, especially when most of the industry still clings to the all-electric by 2035 narrative. But Cummins isn't here to win social media points or stock hype. They're focused on customers who deal in uptime, logistics, fleet management, and durability. And those customers are starting to question whether electric is the universal fix they were sold. Just look at the data. Heavy-duty truck operators are struggling with the weight and cost of batteries. Rural and industrial clients can't rely on grid stability. Municipalities are stalling electric bus deployments because they can't support charging needs. Even individual EV owners are noticing increased charging fees and slower stations. The reality is setting in. Electrification is a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole picture. That's where Cummins comes in. Instead of trying to eliminate internal combustion, they've refined it. Instead of banking on one fuel, they've engineered for many. And instead of chasing unproven tech, they've doubled down on making existing systems smarter, cleaner, and more adaptable. But if you read between the lines of her recent interviews, a clearer picture emerges. She speaks of transitional solutions, fuel optionality, and not abandoning customers who can't electrify overnight. It's not anti-electric, it's anti-tunnel vision. During a closed-door meeting with investors earlier this year, she made a comment that caught attention. We're not interested in electrifying for the sake of optics. We're building systems that can survive real-world conditions and evolve with them. A few weeks later, she said something even more loaded. And just like that, ears perked up. Because those weren't just offhand remarks. They echoed a growing sentiment, one that regulators are starting to face, fleet operators are whispering about, and engineers have known all along. Energy transitions take time, infrastructure, and realism, not just headlines. What Cummins is doing, especially with its Helm platform and hydrogen ICE development, is less about picking sides and more about staying flexible. They're not asking the world to choose between EVs and combustion. They're saying, still, despite the public-facing rollout of new engines and partnerships, there's a strange tension building. Behind the scenes, engineers have been unusually quiet. Trade show presentations feel deliberately vague, and CEO Rumsey, who's typically measured in her words, recently let slip something that raised eyebrows. And then, everything changed. According to reports from a recent internal showcase at Cummins's Columbus, Indiana facility, the company may have just made the most consequential pivot in its modern history without a flashy press release or a viral video. Instead, it came through a quiet, tightly controlled demonstration attended only by key engineers, strategic partners, and a handful of industry insiders. But what they witnessed may soon send shockwaves through the entire auto industry.